Hello everyone! Wow, another live stream. I can't believe a month has gone past. So welcome to everybody who's listening, especially people in chat who've already said hello. Wow, I can't believe it's nearly Christmas. I don't know about you, but The world and life just seems to be flying past. And I can't say I seem to be doing much, but it's still flying past. And I did wonder afterwards, should I have done a look back on the year? Should I have put together all the things I did last year and done a little stuff about that? But I didn't. So anyway, here we are on Port Dinorwic, number 10. Yes, this is the 10th and penultimate instalment of Port Dinorwic. It may not seem like it, but actually in the background, 90% of the stuff has now already come together on video, and we're on rolling stock locomotives this week, and then next month in January, it may or may not be on a TV show at that point, but it will be the very last live stream, and I'll do a YouTube beginning to end quarter of an hour video which will whiz through 90% of this. Hey, it's if they want to know the details, they can come and join the live stream like you guys. So YouTube thinks it's a good time to place ads. Probably not. Right, wow, loads of people on chat already. Thanks for everyone who has turned up. I know life gets busy towards Christmas and there's loads else on, so I really appreciate you all turning up. And, if you listen to it later on, don't worry. I watch most live streams on sort of later catch up just because, Sunday nights, people have other plans, don't they? Or Sunday, whatever time of day it is for you. And for those of you for whom it's already Monday. Right, so let's have a look. Hello to everybody I've already said hello to. And then, wow. So I think loads more people coming in. There's a lot of Johns, so I'm just going to call you all John, and it's up to you to work out which one it is. Even though John's saying I can call you JC or Irish John, I've then got to remember which John is Irish John. So probably I'll just call you by your names. Hi, so hi to Robin and Mark who've come in since I was saying hello, to Felinheli, Ravenson Press, hello from the other side of the pond, indeed, welcome. Let's see who else is there. Stephen Cameron, Kathy and friends, everything okay? Yep, feeling better today. And then Andy T. Hi Kathy, just got back from Prague. Nice. Great to see the show. Got severe food severed food and beer to the table by G. Oh, you got served food and beer to the table by G Scale in the restaurant on Thursday. I've heard of that restaurant. It looks amazing. That is so cool. Freckledy says, thank you for your lava decor tutorial. I absolutely adore doing lava, and it will come again because it is such fun to do. So definitely no problem. Would like to do it again. And then Ratty Rex on a TV show. Yes, it's kind of supposed to be a secret, but hey, just let the cat out of the bag. Freckledy's from France. Hello to France. I might be there early in the new year. Hope so anyway. But probably a different part. And then Alan and Sherilyn. Alan says, hi from New Zealand, 9 a.m. Monday morning here. Merry Christmas to all. And yeah, happy Christmas, everybody, as this is the Christmas stream. And before I get too much further in, I do need to remember to thank my mods, my moderators. If you put some sexy chat bots into the channel, they will shut them down. We do not want any adult dating sites taking you away from here. So thank you to Norm, Timber and Digger, all of whom do an excellent job and turn up month in, month out and help me. I really do appreciate them. I really, really wouldn't be able to do this without them. So who else we got? Tam's in again, TV show, yep. 54 people, yeah. Actually, that's quite low. I think I started off with 100 plus, which I think was the first one. And it's actually too many in chat. The chat is just whizzing so much I can't keep up. So around about 60 or 70 is a nice number to get to, which is where we are at the moment, because you don't get inundated with the chat just going vroom, 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 past as you're trying to keep up with it and answer people's questions. So where have I got to? Sparky 107. It's a good day, model railroaders. Guess you're from the American side of the pond with that. Marcus Canfield, good evening, Kathy. Hope you're well. I'm well. I have been a little I just spent most of yesterday and today chilling rather than doing any modelling or any work because I just feel like it's getting near Christmas. I'm tired. I can tell I haven't had a holiday in 3 years and I really, really just want to get on and do whatever. So I normally would play my Xbox when I want a break, but my house is so full of boxes I can't see the TV from the chair in my lounge to play the Xbox. So what I decided to do was take it around to Mum's. So I was a lot of fiddling around the back of some dioramas. I hope they survived. I did drop a hard drive on one of them. Just getting the Xbox out, and the Xbox is now round at Mum's, and we've been playing, she watches, Jedi Fallen Order. Not played it before. It's a Star Wars game. Not too much shooting, which is good because my sister hates shooting when she's in there, and we're basically cutting loads of creatures in half as we battle our way around Jedi temples, it seems like at the moment, following a series of clues. I'm only on the first chapter 2 now, but I'm really enjoying if you don't play video games, I was trying to explain this to Mum, you don't realise how much of a story, the ones I play at least, is a story with some fighting, and I'm playing it on story mode so I don't have to replay the same battle 20 times to get through each boss for Mum as much as anything else, and because I just want to play the story. And they're great fun, and they're immersive, and it's a good way to relax. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple of days, plus putting 3D prints to go left, right and centre. And then Stephen says, glad to see you smile again. That mech seems stressful. I started that in March. I've been thinking about it since February when the contest went live. And I finished it mid-October. And it took me this long to get around to editing it up. It's like, oh, yeah, it's not my normal way of building. And that really put me out of my comfort zone, which is good. But, it's good to be out of your comfort zone. But when you're on a timetable, it's also bad, and I'm always out of my comfort zone, it seems, at the moment. So that was cool. John Penny, hello Kathy. My nickname is Skippy. If there's a skip anywhere, then I'm in it. Oh, I've got a skip on my front if you want to come and look. I was looking in there earlier, going, my builders have been throwing out interesting stuff. But yeah, yep, that's the one. Hi Nick. Okay, Adam. Hi Adam. Ooh, Jaw21. Any UK viewers? The Great Model Railway Challenge Series 2 is being repeated on 5HD starting Saturday the 17th of December at 4:45 and finishes Monday the 19th of December at 5 a.m. So if you're up at, is that the morning or is that the afternoon? That seems really early in the morning. Anyway, they're around. You can also get them on More 4, I think, so you can just download them and watch them whenever. So yeah. Freckledy, what is your future project? Which one? Because I always have about 10 future projects on the go. And I'll talk a little bit more about the year perhaps as we're going on. So we'll see. So where are we? Digger. Yeah, Matty says the chat is zipping past as my work deadlines. That's cool. Anyway, also I missed Scott, FW. A bit ago, watched Space Capsule Splashdown on NASA's YouTube channel. Rocket science is way cool, but it ain't railways. Yeah, it's hard to, model rockets in your house. They tend to make a mess on the ceiling. But there we go. Spam bots beware. Kathy's making a list and checking it twice. Haha, true. Xbox. BNSF 2011, thumbs up to the Xbox. Loads of people talking to each other. Oh, Cossie 118 BMK. Hi. Whew, we're getting down a bit. I'm going to catch up soon. So Stephen just asked me about Worley. I'll park that for a sec. Alan and Sherilyn just had our first holiday in 3 years. This 10-day South Pacific cruise. Oh, that sounds idyllic. Oh, beautiful. I'm jealous. Really jealous. And then Cossie 11 BMK just started my model railway challenge. If anyone wants to check it out, thanks. So there we go. Shout out to them. Double O'Neill, howdy Kathy, lovely to see you. Nice to see. I actually saw you in person at Worley as well, which was nice. I'm guessing loads of people have come in. Let's see, everyone keeps saying hi Tris. There we go. Right, I think I'm at the bottom. Hi Aidan, hi Newlyn Railway. So, let me just talk about Worley as people have asked about it. Worley was great. It was the first model railway show I've been to in since Worley 2019. And incidentally, Worley 2019 was where I met the guys who I'm now working with on my new job. 3 years have passed and finally we got funded. Cash has still got to hit the bank, but we were all signed up, ready to go a couple of weeks ago. Cash is due in I think this week. And once they get cash in the bank, they can start paying me. So I will have a new job, which is going to be very exciting. I've mentioned it quite a lot of times. So back to Whalley. Whalley is, it's always a great show. There's always so much going on. And I went around the first day with my new boss, and I was talking to people a lot about the new project, trying to catch people who might be interested in taking part or who are, just people, suppliers, manufacturers, whatever we need to talk to. So I took him around. He's not a modeller. And then on Sunday, I managed to get around quite a lot of people. Managed to see, some of the people I desperately wanted to see, like Carol from Loco Ladies. And then I probably missed loads of other people. So if I missed you, I'm really sorry. I know I waved at a couple of people and ran past because I was off to see something or do something. And I'm really sorry if I missed you. But it was so nice. My new boss was funny. He was like, men are gawping at you, Kathy. It's really, if it was anywhere else, it would be freaky and weird. But here it seems normal. And then people would come up and say, hi, Kathy, and he'd be like, do you know them? I'd be like, no, it's fine. So he was getting used to being around with a model railway YouTuber who's well known. So that was quite funny. And yeah, that was cool. And to answer the question, I don't think there's going to be another Great Model Railway Challenge. I think the production team that did it has kind of disbanded slightly over COVID, and I don't know if they're back together. So there we go. But it was really good. There were some great layouts. I didn't get a chance to look at that many, and I was wiped out. I'm just generally wiped out at the moment. I'm struggling to get motivation. I've got some modelling to do for, I've got to finish off Lara ice wall. I need to think about the ice wall. It's lovely in the translucent, but actually that's only a partial effect. And then I need to get on and get something big printed. And that's causing me, I'm printing loads of big stuff on my Neptune. It's beautiful, but I need to do them a really big print for that. And I'm trying to decide what to do. And the obvious one would be a helmet. And I did do some videos on my helmet, I think, but yeah. I've kept my previous helmet off YouTube because it's a personal project, so we'll see. But yes, it's just trying to find the right project. When someone sends you a free printer and it's big, you presume you've got to print something big, but everything you buy is cut to smaller printers. Just trying to work it all out. Oh, and we missed a sexy spam bot. Digger beat you all to it. Excellent. So that's why I could see the chat going past so quickly. Right, so who have we got in? Loads of people. Alan. Oh, right. BNSF 2011, what do you use for your static grass applicator? Well, I'm lucky enough to have been sent them and have bought them. I have bought for myself, my first one I ever bought was a knock applicator. They sent me the knock 3.0, which is really cool. I like it. I use it for big stuff. If I was doing it professionally, like a lot of static grass, I'd probably buy a really, really expensive one. And people like Luke Geek Gaming, he's on YouTube, he's a lovely northern lad. He did a comparison of some of the more pro ones, and there's some that just put a lot more oomph out, and I'd be going with the ones that put more oomph out. But actually I get by with my knock one for long grass. For shorter grass, the WWS micro one is excellent, but I wouldn't put it past 6mm, and I sometimes use 10mm on just on trees and stuff. And then I've got a couple of their really small ones. I had a pro one, which is just like a thimble full of grass, which I used on Port Dinorwic actually. You saw it last time. It's brilliant for small stuff. But for most railways, it's too small. And he gave me, when I was at Whalley, a whole batch of new stuff, including some trees to make and some weathering powders and mud. And I wanted the mud specifically. That's the only thing I actually said to him. I actually need some mud. So I want to do a couple of things on mud. And he's got... and he gave me his new small applicator that's got a bigger hopper than the pro little titchy one, which I haven't tried yet. So I do like the WWS ones. They're a UK one if you're over here. The knock one was great. I haven't tried any others to recommend them. But look for the most bang for your oomph, because if you want long grass to stand upright, you will struggle with the cheaper ones. And you can always do a homemade one out of tea strainer and zap yourself every time you use it. It's always another option. Right, and Norm saying congratulations. Thank you. The The bots have arrived early and added to Kathy's naughty list. Ooh, you don't want to see my naughty list. There's a few people on it. So Stephen says he's been off work for a couple of days due to weather. Tonight's forecast is -10. Oh, can I just have the moan? My builders are beautiful guys. They're really nice. They do a great job. They're very tidy. My house looks as tidy as you can expect for being a building site. But I've just spent £100 on gas this week because I was away for 3 days and I didn't realise they were taking the ceiling off the landing. So the whole of my house inside is now open to the drafty loft, which hasn't been insulated and boarded out on one side yet and hasn't got any windows in it and literally has insulation down one side. So I came home to find my heating had been trying to heat the outside for 3 days and it's off in the day now, but at night it cracks on to a lower temperature of 15. And it couldn't even get up to 15. So it's been an expensive week. And I'm still leaving the heating on because obviously I want the rest of the house warm. And I then have to just manually turn it off. But my house was preheating last week and they'd leave the doors open. And my house, it wasn't due on till 4. My house would start at 9 a.m. to preheat. And I was like, you what? And I had to take that off. So it's very cold the second you go there outside. Get that on screen. That way. The second you go that way, it's like freezing. It's like 12 degrees in the hallway. And I'm trying to not heat more than that. But yeah, it's really annoying. But I'm glad that they decided to do that. The coldest day of the year. They can't help it, bless them. You know, they've already been put back by the steels for 3 weeks and then bad weather. We're doing some of the exterior work. They've nearly got all the exterior done now. We've obviously got windows, but the ridge tiles are on, all the capping tiles. I think they're mostly now just onto interior fitting out, which is where they are. The electrician's done his first fix. So loads going on. It's getting there. It'll be a beautiful workshop. I'm going to be really busy and goodness knows when I'm going to sort it. But yes. Right. But anyway, I'm glad it's not -10 is all I can say because it'd be even colder in my house. So Digger asked, would you have time to do another series of Model Railway Challenge? I'd make time. It's a great advert to be on it for whatever I'm doing and for whatever my future employers are. And it's 8 weeks, probably not at a bad time of year, but I just don't think there will be one, so I don't think it'll be an issue. Cozzy118BMK is nice to meet your fans who are only human. Oh, bless. I mean, I say to people say, oh, I couldn't possibly do what you do, Kathy. And I look at it and I think, I only do it because I try it and I fail and I keep going. I mean, that probably came out if you watched the mech video. I hated what I did in the final result. I didn't like it. And there's people going, it's really amazing. And I'm like, I don't think so. I'm actually going to do them in 3D print this time. And I have a really great idea what I want to do. Having just watched the entire 3 seasons of Thunderbirds or Go, they have these hot swappable pods with different legs and arms. And I'd very much like to do something similar to that. But keeping an eye on time, I need to start the main thrust of what we're talking about today. And I'll come back to the chat and to talking a bit more about my new job and the TV show as we go. But let's just go to tonight's movie. It's all about rolling stock. Now, there's a lot of repetition. Let's go with that because I think repetitivity isn't a word. And there's also a really bad set of camera shots because my normal close-up was in a low position because of the top of the layout and it just got blocked by my hand 90% of the time. It's so frustrating. I would never do a lidded project again with the lid on, but you can't not do it when you're doing this kind of railway. So I'd need to consider very carefully how I did it. It was really annoying. But these are the Slate wagons. They run like dogs for 2 or 3 reasons, but one of which is they're the really fine, ultra fine Shapeways Dinorwic Slate wagons. So I bought them, they're 009, I got them off Shapeways, and there's no spring in them. So I couldn't work out how, well, for a start, the metal wheels that I want, because they have spoked wheels, that the sort of curly spokes, they're kind of round. They're not available at the moment, according to Tim, who's my guru on all things North Wales, and isn't here today because he's actually been out on the real thing. And he said they're not around. And the ones that I had, A, I didn't have enough, and B, they were the wrong length. But I couldn't work out how I'd get a metal axle into here anyway. They're just not flexible enough to bend out to get the metal axes in. Now, I could have bought a new set. I'd had this set for about 5 years at this point. But I was like, oh, you know, I'm just going to use these. And as a result, I'm using isopropyl alcohol because these ones often have a wax on them from Shapeways, and I'm just giving them a good isopropyl alcohol bath, ultrasonic bath, to clean them up. But one of the problems then was what to do. So I decided to paint them and think about it later because, hey, that's a good technique. So these have been sprayed with a grey primer. I can't remember whether I did it with Mr. Surfacer or Rattlecam, but I think it's probably Mr. Surfacer. And I'm just catching them. These are the little alligator clips on bamboo sticks, and I'm catching them underneath so that I can spray paint them individually. Now, I decided I was going to spray lacquer hairspray technique. Now, if you've ever done a hairspray technique, it's normal to put down a layer of hairspray, but I decided on this that I was going to help that along because it's lacquer, and I actually put on a layer of hairspray, which is actually a MIG chipping solution here, and I then put on some salt, just normal table salt, to create the big chips on the top, because this is very worn, grey, wood topped. Those bars across are wood, and then the uprights are metal. So I wanted wood underneath, and they've just got this grey primer at the start. And the salt's going on. And then I'm going to spray them with lacquer. You can absolutely lacquer chip lacquers. No, let me say that again. You can absolutely use the hairspray salt technique on lacquer sprayed stuff, but it is incredibly tough to get off. I find Vallejo too easy to come off, so I tend to try and use Tamiya. Vallejo, the whole sheet will just come off if you're not careful. It's actually too soft almost to do a great technique for me. But it's the first time I've ever tried lacquer hairspray technique, and it worked. I was surprised. It requires a bit of scrubbing, but I've had Tamiya require a lot of scrubbing when I've done it, and I've actually used like a kitchen, you know, one of those green scouring sponges before now on Tamiya when I was doing the Wegos and I was practicing with them because I just couldn't get the paint to chip off. So, you know, you'll see what I do in a minute with these. But I'm spraying them with, I think I just did a custom mix of a sort of burgundy and red to get that worn red oxide, but it'll be a Mr. Colour lacquer colour. Right. Let's go back up and look at chat while that's going. Ratty Rex, some lumps of virtual brown squishy coal being sent to their inbox. Naughty spam bots. Oh, I think it's a bit mean though, unless it's chocolate. Stephen, best wishes for the new job. If you love your job, you'll never work another day in your life. That's not true. I watched an Adam Savage on making your job, your hobby, your job, or making what you love your job. And he said the trouble when you make something your job, and I can 100% agree with this, it ceases to be something you choose. You have to do it when you don't want to. Suddenly there's rules and job worth stuff that comes around it that makes it repetitive and not the same. He's right. You can love your job, but it's still work and it feels like work. I love modelling. I do not love doing modelling as a job. I mean, when I'm sat down all day, there are loads of downsides to it. So I'm not a believer in this, actually. I think once you do your hobby or whatever you love as a job, it's a great job. It's a brilliant job, but it's still work. Harder work than actually being employed and doing your hobby for fun. So you can see I've got the toothbrush out, I've got the toothpick, or as I prefer to call them, cocktail stick. It's a British word, far more fun than a toothpick. Cocktail stick out, and I'm scratching off. I didn't get much off except where the salt was there. It is hard to pull off with this. The hairspray helps, but it's not quite enough. You do need to give it an awful lot of scratching to get it off. It's not the same as if you were to do it with an acrylic, not by a long way. And the longer you leave it, obviously, the tougher the lacquer gets. But you don't have a choice. Lacquer's set in about 10 minutes, whatever you do. Right. So, Perlite 3000, hello from Southwest Germany to Kathy in here. Sorry, a little late. Don't worry, you're here. That's what counts. Norman, make sure your applicator has a wall plug, more powerful than battery operated. Yeah, none of mine have wall plugs. He's talking about grass applicators, back on that because I'm just catching up with chat. And I will get one eventually with a wall plug. And I'll probably go and look at the Geek Gaming one. I think it was RKJ or something. that he recommended that were really good, and they're plugged in. I'll definitely do that. So, Tamsin, I've got one of the WWS handheld jobs in a flop box from Wallpainter. Yeah, WWS do those flop boxes. They look quite fun, but I just don't do enough trees. That most of what I do is onto it, so I've never bought one, but he was showing it off. And also at Worley, Sam from Peaks 47 was flocking sheep. He was actually putting white flock onto sheep. It was so cute, and I think he sold a lot of packets of sheep as a result. Ratty Rex says, lol, zap yourself doing grass applicator, hair and grass standing up at the same time. Oh yeah, it's an unpleasant buzz, I believe. I've not done it, but yeah, it is. So Stephen Cameron saying, guess what, it's Magnum time. I have no idea what you mean by that, but for me a Magnum is a chocolate ice cream, and I'm like, too cold. So Raverson Express, yep, maybe neighbours with Polite 3000. So Neil, welcome. So Neil's from Dublin. Polite's near the Swiss border, very nice. So Cosy 118BM Key, I recently ripped all my layout railway track up as I weathered it too much and wasn't happy with it. Cost a lot of money, but now I'm happy with it on my channel. Yeah, it is hard to unweather things. You can just spray another coat of paint and have a go, but it gets gummed up too much, doesn't it? It is difficult. Hi Mark, don't worry you're late. You're here, that's what counts. So Ravenson's also in Germany, but a little bit more to the middle. Giant boar monster. Does it matter what type of salt? Oh, it does actually. I'm just gonna, this is Starship Filth oil wash. I love Starship Filth. It's an Abteilung 402. I think it's 502, 402, 502 perhaps. Oil paint, which is a MIG AK Interactive, one of those brands. And it's just a lovely dark grey. It's not got any speckle in it or anything, despite the fact saying Starship. It's a lovely dark grey, and I've got a pot mixed up most of the time at the moment. And I'm just going on adding that in to start the weathering process on these. So back to the question, does it matter what type of salt? Choose your salt by the size of hole that you want. I have all sorts of salt from, large flaky grain stuff all the way through to very fine, so that, and the reason you use salt is the water will dissolve it, so that I can choose whether I want big chunks or small chunks. But it's better on 99% of models to err to the smaller side. But table salt is a bit regular, so if you use more granular salts, then you can get more interesting chips. And now I'm just painting a grey, sort of a middish grey, onto all of the wood areas that are exposed, and onto the base, which is also wood, which I realised hadn't been painted when I started, so I had to go over it. And just trying to make sure everything looks nice and weathered and the right colour. I know it was already grey, but I just felt it was the wrong grey before. And I could have done this first if I wanted, but I didn't think of it. And actually, this way, I can leave patches of the other grey showing through and get a bit of variety, which I think is really important. Hi New Junction. Marcus Canfield. Hi Kathy, what did you think of the show at Telford? Did it give you any ideas? So hi Marcus. So the show at Telford was IPMS, and did I talk about that last time? It's a really good show. IPMS is Scale Model World. And the last time I went round it, I remember thinking, well, there's nothing I want to buy. It's none of the trade. And I was really heavily into model railways at the time. Now I model more variety. I am not a fan of just tables of tanks or planes. I can look at them and I can look at the great job that they've done and the camos, especially like the digital camos. I'd like to do some digital camo work at some point on something. I can look at all that and go, this is so cool. But after the 50th tank, I'm kind of like, oh, it's a tank. Okay. And I kind of lose the really good models in that crowd of, oh, it's a tank. I'm a diorama girl, and I would like to have seen more dioramas. I think this is my thing. Just a plastic kit on its own, I always feels very unfinished. Whereas to me, a kit in a scene tells a story, and I'm into that story, probably because I started with model railways. So I'm used to having more of a scene than just anything else. So it's interesting. The one thing that surprised me, and I'm sure I said this last time, the sci-fi is literally Star Wars, Jerry Anderson, and then Battlestar Galactica, the original series, bit of Gundam, bit of Warhammer, but there's not a lot of originality. And I've just done the original mecha contest, and I'm not seeing that kind of originality coming through. Even the Gundam, a lot of them were, plain kit builds, apart from on the actual Gundam Facebook group. Sort of, it's a subgroup or whatever of IPMS. Apart from there, almost all of them were just straight builds. And I feel that some of that originality that I might go to get ideas sparking off me, which at a model railway show, I see a lot of originality and things that haven't been done before, as well as all the normal stuff. For me, I didn't see it on there compared to, say, my Instagram feed. And I feel that maybe IPMS just isn't the place for it. It's never been a huge sci-fi show. Or maybe it's just not maybe a British thing. I don't know. But I'd like to see more dioramas and more original models rather than kit builds. But hey, it's a great show. I love going around and seeing what people have been doing. And there's a great amount of stuff there. So yeah, did enjoy it. Alan Dawson is watching from Port Dinorwic, otherwise known as Felinheli. Brilliant. So it was called, the Slate dock was Port Dinorwic. The little village has always been in Felinheli. But it was a point where they anglicised a lot of the names and they've now gone back to the Welsh names. But in this case, it was really the dock because it was the Dinorwic dock. That was the quarry. And this was Port Dinorwic where they exited out all of the port stuff from the quarry. So it's kind of a one of those things where Felinheli's the Welsh name. And yep, it hasn't got a V in it, it's an F. It's Welsh. My mum's Welsh. She hates the way I pronounce stuff. Ravenson Express is talking great German to polite. I'll leave them up to it because I don't speak German. I struggle enough with English at times. So Alan says, I worked on that deck as a kid. It was and still is a marina now. Oh, bless. It must bring back some memories. So I hope this looks at least vaguely realistic. It is supposed to be the last day of steam there. So Norm saw the sheep, very cute. Yeah, I did put them on my Instagram as well. They were. So Timber, we apologise for the delay due to technical issues. Normal service will resume shortly. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so they're going back to the English language. Okay, and I have to remind you, there are nearly 80 people in chat and 36 likes. Apparently, YouTube likes you to like me. I find it really embarrassing. Oh, project planner, tick. I find it really embarrassing, but apparently you have to like me to make me go places. So now we're on to another rolling stock issue that I struggled with. Not only did the wheels, I put them on as 3D prints. So I put them in place as 3D prints and bent them while they were uncured, so they were still bendy, and put them in place. And Tim Williams sent me those sported file 3D prints. I'm not sure they were always round, and I'm not sure I filed them off well enough. But what I wanted to do was some kind of prototypical coupling. I hate British couplings, can I just say. I modelled American more than I ever modelled the UK, and they just use KDs, and KDs are beautiful. It's prototypical. They work. They're wonderful. I love KDs. I hate British sort of couplings. I mean, not the actual couplings. I hate these just, what are they? These model things that look nothing like the real thing. Let's have hooks going over each other. And none of the ones that are meant to look like chains work. And Port Dinorwic has literally a 3-link chain with a hook on the end, and they hook them over each other. And that's it. So I decided, hey, let's 3D print the hooks. Let's 3D print the D-rings that go into the wagon, and let's use jewellery. These are jewellery rings for the circles. But the jewellery rings were round and too big, so I ended up squashing them down. Nothing really quite fell properly. I should have used some finer links if I'm honest, but I didn't have any. And I was on an 8-week deadline with the TV company coming to film on the 1st of July. And this is probably like the 20-something of June, desperately trying to get everything done. It wasn't going to work. So I made a lot of these little links up and made them into hook, 3 links, D, and then I blackened them. I think I used that to blacken it. I don't know if super glue works as well. One of them worked really well, I think, and one of them just is getting a bit old. But blacken it is an American blackening solution. Super glue is what you use for your guns, should you actually own any, which is rare in the UK. And it's used for bluing off barrels. And these are jewellery that have a silver coating. Now, when I came to couple them, I hadn't thought through the 3D printed hook enough, or actually more, I hadn't thought through these chain links. And the hook wouldn't sit through the chain links. It just wouldn't sit neatly through it. And it wouldn't hook onto each other. And I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And the answer, sadly, these are very cheap chains, so they're made of just iron. The answer turned out to be magnets. So these are joined together with a little 2x2 or 2x1 or whatever it was, magnet. That's what holds them together. So they're a little stiff. The magnet and the chains don't hang properly. They're a little long, so they catch on the track, which I think the real things do as well. And because the real things trail down if you look. And they're just magneted together. And then magneted onto the back of the loco when you get there in a sec, which has the same system. So there's an awful lot of making little loops out of these things, squashing them so they're oval, and then trying to make them look not all horribly squashed, and then just putting it together. But that's one of the advantages of having a 3D printer, is you can just design hooks. And that, I think, was blacken it. No, that was the super glue. Anyway, in it goes, blackening them. You can see, yeah, it was that super glue. Poured it back in there. Oh, interesting. Maybe that's why it doesn't work. I keep pouring it back in. And then they are blackened. Gets rid of that silver stuff for the jewellery, and you've got some really rotten old chains that are black. And you don't need to do much. I put a rust wash over them later, but you don't really need to do much with them. They're just not as droopy as I would like. But I was really running out of ideas and time. The whole of these Slate wagons, if I hadn't spent hours painting them, you've seen how long this is. This is at 7 times speed. So this was 11 hours of work, all of these put together, shortened down. If it wasn't at this speed, you'd realise how long I spent. And I did cut some stuff out. I didn't video it all. I just can't be bothered to repaint them because they look beautiful. They just don't run well. And that's because they're too light. There's no weight in here. So I might have to turn them over and just glue on some little... I've got some car balancing weights somewhere I found recently. And I did, for the ones that are running, I took a slate load, and off camera, I was desperate by that point, so cameras were out the window. I used my little Despy pen tool, electric pen tool, to hollow out a hollow in the slate, and I filled it with liquid lead, which is just lead granules. And I used that. So the empty ones won't run, but the ones with a load on will at least run, sort of. But the couplers, the sort of couplings are a little bit tight. Sort of, they're quite stiff, so they come off a lot. It's just so it's not easy. So this is me putting on the 3D printed. Yeah, I think I broke that axle box. This is me putting on the 3D printed wheels. I bend them and put them in place. So I'm not even sure all the axles are quite straight. And then I kind of just check them a little bit. And then once those are on, I painted with just some, I think it's just life colour, acrylic paint, because it came out of a bottle, so it was easy to use. It's the right thickness. And I put on all of the chains. There's a little hole, there's Shapeways print, so I could just glue on the D-ring, which is prototypical. Whew, okay. Right. So let's see. Right. That's a lot of wagon, says Norm. Yes. So Tim, who I described as my slate guru, just joined. He was the guy that gave me the wheels. These are your wheels, Tim. And yeah, very good. He's actually got on Thingiverse. I think he's got some slate wagons that are similar as well. So he's back. He made it home from a weekend on the footplate in Wales, faster than I dared to hope. Well, very nice to have you here, Tim. Thank you for making it back. And I saw his Quarrel Tegid at Worley, going to an argument about what blondin is. My new boss was like, you do not back down, Kathy. I'm like, they are called blondins in Dinorwic. So this is an interesting one about semantics on whether aerial ropeways are called blondins in Dinorwic, considering every single page you read, every book you read, every single thing always calls them blondins. And then this one bloke said, they're not called blondins, they're called chain inclines. They're not called chain inclines in Dinorwic, as far as I can see. That is never used anywhere. Everyone calls them blondins. I think they're actually called aerial ropeways officially on the quarry records. Because yes, I went through the quarry records because it bugged me whether it was called a blondin or not. But whether we've come to an actual answer on whether any quarryman called them a blondin, well, we haven't got there yet. But still digging. Tim will probably wade in on blondin discussion 79 or something. So Stephen, my plan as I get near retirement age, I'm hoping to qualify as a gyrocopter flying instructor. I haven't even flown solo yet, so it's uphill all the way. Well, good luck on that one, Stephen. That sounds interesting. I thought gyrocopters were something in the cartoons where someone had a helicopter helmet. I'm guessing it's not. Okay, so where are we? Alan, nope, the village was Port Dinorwic when I moved in 1982. So they did this was part of that lovely anglicisation, and I'm half Welsh and half English, so I'm not taking a side here, where a lot of Welsh stuff was renamed English for a while and has now gone back to Welsh, hence the change. And people sometimes correct me, and I say, no, at the time I'm modelling, this was Port Dinorwic. This is what it was. So, you know, it's a historical 1960, so it was definitely called that then. So Jam Fjord, good evening, Kathy and everybody in chat. Sorry I'm late, hope everybody is well. Merry Christmas, Crimbleside and all that. Yes, happy Christmas to you and better late than never. It's the people who turn up at 5 to 10 I feel sorry for, because I'm like, oh, sorry, just finishing now. So Alan, the name Port Dinorwic has gradually phased out in favour of Felinheli, despite Gwynedd Council's alleged bilingual policy. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, my mum's from South Wales and her father was beaten at school if they spoke Welsh. But nobody really spoke Welsh she spoke Welsh at home with her dad. Her mum tended to speak English. She knows plenty of Welsh people who don't speak Welsh at all in South Wales. It's really common in South Wales not to speak Welsh. And now the best schools are Welsh and you have to learn Welsh to go to them. And Welsh is making a comeback. But she's of the generation where she did speak Welsh, but she's kind of lost it because, you know, she's 79 now and hasn't lived in Wales since she was 18. So it's just never really been used. And it will come back, I think, if she used it, but she just doesn't. And but her generation, I can think of plenty of people who have Welsh as Welsh comes, but didn't know Welsh, just never learnt it, spoke English. Just that's where it was. So Timber says, my fault. YouTube was playing me up and never updated. Oh, okay. Well, nice to have you back, Timber. Cozzy118 looks so fiddly. It was. There's nothing worse than being on a deadline and doing something that you know is going to take forever and fiddly, and knowing that you can either do it well or you can do it badly, and knowing you want to do it well and just having to spend the time. I mean, look, each one of these now, because I didn't want to paint them before I put them in, I cured them in between this. I will say these are not uncured anymore. They were uncured when I put them in, and I cured them in place. Plenty of light bouncing around. You can see there's a little bit of space for me to put some lead underneath, but not a huge amount. But I need to address that. You can see one or two of them probably need a bit of smoothing off on their sort of rungs. Anyway. Right, and then the British loop and latch couplings work, but they're never going to look real. I've become blind to them. Yeah, I just don't want to become blind to them. So if you look at my main ones, I used O-Links by, is it Smith's? Smith's O-Links. And I've literally just used the 3 loops. That's it. Just the 3 chain loops, which were too big for these, or and I didn't have enough for these. And they've got little, built into the wagons, they've got little hooks. And I was like, what shall I do? I'm running out of time. What shall I do? You know what? I got those little loops, I made up my chains, and I used black tack, which is like blue tack. This is rust wash, by the way. It's an enamel wash. It's just a thinned enamel wash, I think. And I used black tack to glue them, and I pushed them into those hooks, and I put a little bit of black tack and I pushed them in place and I held them there. This is my slate dust colours. It's a light grey and dark grey. It's light slate grey and dark slate grey by Vallejo, I think. The final thing I did was go everything with some slate dust and then use some isopropyl alcohol to set it in place. Isopropyl alcohol is great for setting stuff in place. It's just dripped on here for pigments at the very least. It's not permanent. If you give it a good rub with your finger, it will come off, but it's more than enough for the average thing you're doing. Right, so itchy nose. Norm thinks that it looks like a bunch of bugs, probably. Jam Fjord. I just got home from the Manchester Christmas Model Railway exhibition. Some lovely narrow gauge layouts, maybe a third of them. Oh, that's nice. I like narrow gauge because you can get a lot more track in on tight turns and it looks okay. 11 hours. Oh no, this was about 8 weeks beginning to end, and it was quick. It would have been fine if I hadn't got the TV sort of breathing down my neck to get it done and moving the deadline forward month after month. It was originally supposed to be the end of August and it came forward. At one point they wanted it mid-June, at which point I put my artistic foot down and went, you cannot build a railway in no time. I said the end of August. So these are the slate loads, and this is the magnet testing. Just these little bitty magnets. It's just it, little round magnet, you can see it there. Just kind of there, pops in, testing them. I think I put a chain in there in the end. And trying to work out what to do. They almost work, and the slate loads came from Tim as well, I think. Yeah, so thanks to Tim for the slate loads. I made up the slate piles for the dock myself in Blender, but because Tim had already done these to fit this, I didn't feel the need to change anything. Right, where are we? Inspector Gadget had that helmet hat. The helicopter hat, yeah, I do remember that. I think little Nellie from James Bond. Yes, I know what you mean now. Tamsin's excited it's snowing in London. Wow, I looked out this morning and thought, oh, it snowed. Oh, okay. Wasn't a lot here. But yeah. So Screaming Mimi from 3 from the Riptide. That is just words to me. I don't understand what that means. Anyway, Digger says, ironically, the languages taught in schools, all my grandchildren speak Welsh fluently. Yeah, and that's what I think is so funny, because my grandfather was beaten and made to stand in the corner with a dunce hat on if he spoke Welsh in a Welsh-speaking, he's a Welsh-speaking family, if he spoke Welsh at school. So the world has churned around a lot. And Digger, I don't actually know what you look like, I don't think, but I'm sure you don't look old enough to have grandchildren. Oh, and now we're on to the Western Hornsby. So this is another Shapeways model, and I've primed it already here. And it's a beautiful little model. I got it donkey's years ago when I first started this project. And you can get them, and it has a Tomitech, I think, chassis in it. Tomitech. I had a couple of different chassis for the different things. And the boxes are probably behind me in a pile somewhere, because that's where the Port Dinorwic piles I haven't yet sorted are. And it runs really nicely, and I went to Digitrains. Digitrains were very, very helpful, and they advised me, this was at Worley 2019, and they advised me on the right sound for this, but I couldn't fit the sound in, so it's gone in the layout itself. It's at the back in a speaker hidden, and they advised me on the capacitors and the decoder for this, because it's all DCC. So the decoder just shoved in there, you can see the wires, I've just painted them, put a man in front. And somewhere over the time, the capacitors have stopped working. I don't know why. I've resoldered them 2 or 3 times and they just don't work now. And it's really annoying because it stalls as it comes onto the layout because there's a little gap and it just stalls on the gap. And it didn't used to stall. It used to be able to run 5 or 6 inches without. So I need to work out why. But it's just, again, black tacked in place. The whole thing's held together with black tack, so I can take it off and get at the decoder. And this is, I think this is also life colour acrylics, judging by the cap behind there, just because they've got loads of shades of black. And when you're doing something like this, I couldn't work out if it's a dark green or a black, but I went with a black in the end. You never want to paint black. You always want to paint it an off black. And this has got loads of liquid lead at both ends. So actually it pulls all right, it runs all right, apart from the capacitors not working. So this is kind of a sludgy black. You can see the liquid lead in there very easily. It's just been put in with some super glue around it. And it's nothing special to this paint job. It's just black. So, giant bore monster. Doing all those by scratch is a nightmarish thought. It's actually what I would enjoy in modelling if it weren't for the fact that there's a deadline. That's what makes it stressful. Nottingham hasn't even got a frost. We had snow and frost the last couple of nights. It's freezing now out there. Definitely minus whatever, and very, very crunchy frost. So Stephen, my family comes from Scottish Highlands, but none of us can speak a word of Gaelic. I don't know whether it's required in schools though. I think the difference with Wales is they've now put it back into the schools. I don't think the Scottish schools do Gaelic, do they? I don't know. It's just I don't know. I know the Welsh ones, because, you know, my family's Welsh on that side. So, Mark Warren from Scale Mark Models. Definitely a production line you've got going on. Oh, you need to, don't you? This took quite a lot of coats because the paint's quite thin. Tamsin, I'm not sure when it started, but it's getting on for an inch. An inch! Well, wasn't snowing when I came home at 7:30. So Louis188, hi, sorry late, was watching one of your YouTube videos and this came up in my feed. Why did you paint the wheels after? Just curious to the reason. Cheers and enjoying this. Okay, so the reason I painted them after was, and I had said this earlier, but I'll just repeat it for those who missed it. The wagons are too solid to flex and I needed to get those 3D printed wheels in. And they're flexible until you cure them. They're more flexible before they're cured. So what I did was I put them in and while they were uncured and flexible, and then cured them in place. So obviously I couldn't paint them until they'd been cured. This is a white oil wash, just going in to fade that paint down. I do love a white oil wash, really thin, to add a faded paint look, especially to something like this where there's sort of dust weathering and fading to things. And if you want to speed it up, you can use a hairdryer, but you know, otherwise I used it wet on wet. If you leave your oil paints on a piece of card, they lose the oil, so they dry quite quickly. And then I'm kind of almost doing wet in wet because I'm putting the rust on whilst it's still wet with the white, and it's just starting to bleed into each other. But you can see the white dried almost immediately anyway because it's a white spirit. It's odourless thinners actually, because they don't smell as much. But sometimes I forget and I just use the white spirits that are on the side. You can see that I'm just building up layers and layers of patina at the moment with some rust in there. Now, is it going to be this rusty? Who knows? Probably not. But this is Starship filth going over it and going round some of the areas that would have had streaks and dark stuff coming out of them as another set of weathering, just to tone down that black rust a little bit. And would it be this rusty? I don't know. It's end of life. It's 1960s. It's hard to tell. There's one black and white photo of it. There's the hairdryer speeding it up. So I chose to make it this rusty. In reality, by the time I then put pigments on and seal it with matte varnish, this all tones down, including this, which was gloss. I put on some gloss oil sort of stuff around in places and it toned down, and then I had to go back and redo it at the end. So So I hope that made sense, Lou. I did them because they were uncured 3D prints so that I could bend them in place on the wagons, and then they got cured. So here we go, more pigments. Now pigments don't fix, and I don't normally fix pigments that much, but for rolling stock I do spray them with a matte varnish. And because I'm going to spray it with a matte varnish, I put a much heavier amount on than I do of pigment than I would anyway if it's the pale colour, because the pale will fade back down. And I still went over it afterwards with some pigment, but on the understanding that after I'd done the matte varnish, on the understanding that it would probably then just, you know, wear off with fingers over time. That was a little bit of dark steel. Oh, and this is the man. This is after I've sprayed the matte varnish, because that was done. And I just put a little man in place. I think it's just white glue, so I can get him out again. It's been in and out like anything, and I think he's now in with black tack. But the big problem was, when I first put him on, he stuck out too far and he clunked the side of the layout arch as he went in. That wasn't great. So we're now on to the Ginty. This is a Bachmann Ginty. I think it came just as it was. I didn't change anything, but I had to change the number to the number in the video. And let's just say, this is a TCS and all the Zemo decoders from Digitrains. Shout out to Digitrains, they did me a sterling on adding the right sound in to this Zemo sound decoder. I'd done the little one ages ago, but this one I did at this point. So this is me chipping the decoder into the Ginty. It was already been done on the other one, but it's not hard. It's only like 2 wires onto that because it's not sound. It took me ages to get this apart and back together and working, and I must have had this apart with this decoder in and out, trying to get the capacitors and everything working. It had a complete brain moment. It just stopped working. Everything stopped working. It's got an awful buzz on it. You won't hear it here, but when it's running, it's kind of a brrr. Oh, I know, I can't sound effect. But it's an awful, there we are, Digitrains, an awful amount of rattling somewhere, and I can't stop it whatever I do. It's a nightmare. So I've had this in and out about 50 times trying to get it sorted. And then I was breaking off the solder connections, and I was ringing Digitrains the day the TV crew were out going, I'm due to have the TV crew here in an hour and my train stopped running. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? They were so good at helping. And I just said to the man, I'm sorry, it makes a noise. So there we go. And I think this is me looking up the right installation instructions to see where it goes for the Zemo or whichever one it is, TCS Zemo. So there we go. Yeah, it's a lot of I love DCC sound. I think it makes such a difference. Right. Okay, still snowing. Thanks, Norm. He says it looks great. Right, Tim, my friend's chain incline lecture is famous. I still need to nail down the quarryman's term from my contacts. Let's just say he got nowhere with me. I was not in the mood to be lectured by somebody about something. You've even got it on your layout as a blondin. Yeah. What I find though is sometimes people give you the lecture and they know less than you do. It's quite funny. So I'm not going to back down. But I will go away and find out what's right so that I get it right in future. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm happy to admit that, but I'm not going to back down when somebody just tells me off in public. He was quite abrupt. So Tamsin, because he's saying it's on his way up from Tamsin, but I think our snow comes from the east. So in Birmingham, where I am, quite often we get it when nobody else in the country gets it, and quite often we don't get it when everyone else gets it. It can be a bit weird. Jaw 21, you need to highlight those slate loads. Joke. Good thing you're joking. So Mark Wilson's going to bed at 10. Is it too late to have a cup of tea and a couple of hobnobs? No, especially if they're chocolate-coated hobnobs. I've got my tea here, but I never get around to drinking it. It's all cold by the end of the things. So Tamsin, we hardly ever get any decent snow here. I was in London 3 days this week. No snow. Stephen, do those wagons have weight issues? Yes. I think if you depend on the slate loads to add weight, it could give them a high centre of gravity. Yeah, I need to go through and add some more slate underneath or something. It was just fouling a bit on the wheels when I experimented and I ran out of time. They look beautiful, so I will try to get them sorted and to get it done a bit better. This is me reaming out one of the holes because it's so hard to get the those little metal. I couldn't get that it's a plastic pipe. I couldn't get it out. So this is me trying to get it out the hole that it's plugged into so I can get the top off. So yeah, they do have weight issues. They need more weight. Paul, evening Kathy, and do you use a magnifier while doing the small gauge stuff? It looks incredibly fiddly. I take my glasses off to do it. I have used a magnifier in the past, but at the moment I'm just taking my glasses off and putting it like an inch to my face. But then of course it's out of camera range, so I have to go really close and hunch. Neither's good. So, JOK394. I'm late in. Let's see if you putting on double speed can get me caught up in it. May even speed up my knitting. Well, let's hope it speeds up the knitting. My mum knits while watching TV, and you can tell when it's a good bit because she speeds up, and when it's really sad she slows down. Sometimes she stops, but she does it without looking at her knitting. She's very good. So Tim, the current iteration of the couplings on my Slate wagons uses bronze jewellery chain with iron or brass wire hoops on the end of each wagon, made up in sets of 4 with a normal 009 at each end. I would like to get these made up into rakes, so I don't need to do magnets, but they don't quite attach at the moment, so I'm not quite sure what to do. But I'd like to get them made up in rakes of 4, so I don't need to do too many of the magnets, which are a bit stiff. That's the trouble with them. But these aren't quite working. I need to get the hooks sorted, and the hooks are a bit too big. Sadly, didn't think of that when I was designing them. I didn't think how, when I made the hoops a bit smaller, they'd bend in. So they fitted fine, except for what I did with the chain. But it's too big a chain, really. I could do with taking it all apart and redoing it, but like I'm going to do that now. So Roverson Express, I sometimes watch the YouTube videos from a German YouTuber. He speaks that slow. I have to watch his videos generally in double speed, otherwise I would fall asleep. Double speed's a blessing for some people, isn't it? I know they want to speak slowly for emphasis, and if it's not their first language, I can understand why people are slow, but it's a pain. This is making holes for the wires to run from the decoders into the cab, where I'm having to put all the stuff because there's no room in the boiler. So Lou, thank you for this excellent demonstration. Need to leave, sorry, but we'll watch and catch you up. Thank you very much. All the best. Well, see you on catch up then. Don't worry about it. I mean, come and go as you need to. Timber, that's a big stay alive. I want this to stay alive, baby. Yep. It just happens to be the size of it. The one in the little one's much smaller, but they've brought out a new, so the stay alive is the one in black shiny, I'm pointing, I don't know why, black shiny wrapped. It's about 4 capacitors, and it will go a good foot on this easily without any power. But the little one on the other one I need to redo, and they said they were bringing out better capacitors in a couple of weeks after Worley. So Digitrain said to wait for those and then get in touch. So I'll have to have a look. I was going to see if I got the packet of it so I could tell them what I had before on the other one, because I couldn't remember. He was like, what is it? And I'm like, well, I put it in 5 years ago, so I can't remember. Right. So, John, the issue with things like blonding is nicknames vary even in the same place. The Q1 lot locomotive, which some call Charlie's, but we always knew them as coffee pots, both names in use at the same time. Yeah, and the lecture I got told me that it couldn't be a Blondin because Blondins were horizontal because they're named after Charles Blondin and his tightrope, and he couldn't do it on anything but a horizontal wire. I'm a bit like, but nicknames don't necessarily expect a man to actually do a tightrope walk on it. So I think every single thing you ever read, and his response, I think, through Tim talking to him, was that, well, everyone else has got it wrong. I don't know. And he's been around a lot of the quarries with quarrymen. And it could have been he had the lecture about the chain incline from a different quarry and just didn't ask the question at Dinorwic. You just don't know. It's such a long time ago now, it's quite hard to work out. But Tim's on the case. He's asking people who knew people. So we'll see. Nick, those that can do, those that can't teach or lecture. Yeah, I have great respect for teachers though, so, you know, I'm going to just duck there. Jam, I sometimes like listening to people on half speed as it makes them sound tipsy. You can see how long this decoder took just to get it fitted in there, because there wasn't a lot of space. And again, black tack is your friend. It's black so it doesn't show up, and it gunks everything in place so it doesn't wobble and vibrate and make funny noises. Right, and then Ravenson, your speaking speed is nearly perfect, even if it's not my natural language. That's good, because I think I speak a bit too fast. I'm having to deal with 2 sets of overseas suppliers in my new job, and I'll talk more about that while we're doing DCC, because we've got a main supplier in Tokyo and another main supplier in France, and neither of them speak great English. They always have to have an English person there to translate for a lot of the rest of the team. And it's fascinating because I have to speak slower. But you go on a telecom with the Japanese, and I can say something for 10 minutes, you know, and then they spend half an hour debating what I've said and come back. And part of it's waiting for the translation, and part of it's while they have a think about what I've said and talk about it. But you can literally sit there for half an hour while they talk in Japanese thinking, I don't even know what they're saying. But we've got an English guy out there who speaks Japanese, who's helping us. He's a business partner. So he's been really helpful on explaining things that we're all not quite getting across. But yeah. But thank you. I'm glad you think it's the right speed. My uncle in Wales could never understand me, and he spoke English. He's like, you talk too fast. So, Cozzy, I've just used electrofrog points for the first time. Took some time to figure out the wiring, but well worth it. Oh yeah, I mean, mine are electrofrogs. I don't understand these unifrogs, but for small wheelbase locos, you need electrofrogs. But even the gap is enough on this very small one just to make it stall and stutter. That's why someone said you're going to exhibit it. I'm like, well, the 009 runs like a dog, so no. That's the short answer on that. But no, the tolerances on 009 is obviously more akin to N scale, so you have to get the gaps a lot closer. And it's electrofrogs are great. I've always had to cut mine, and Tim and I had a debate about this because he tried converting his to live frogs and it didn't, and he got shorts. But I'd cut mine in a lot more places and wired everything separately. Every piece has been wired separately. Nothing relies on the moving point blade, and then the point blades change polarity as they come across with a micro switch underneath. It's just a push-pull rod. Right. But definitely I've always done electrofrogs. Always, on every layout. Sean. Those who can't teach become critics. That's probably very true. I can ask about those blondins in Llanberis. I work there a lot and know some of the old quarrymen. Oh, please do. Ask them what they call blondins. So according to Tim's friend, the horizontal ones were called blondins, but the ones that were on a slope into the sinks from the galleries were called chain inclines. And I think they're called aerial ropeways in Dinorwic formerly, but I thought their nickname was blondins. So it'd be good to know what they thought. That would be really, really helpful. Thank you. So there we go. Brilliant. We might get an answer. In the German YouTuber I watch in double speed, he sometimes has his wife in the videos, and at double speed he sounds like Flipper the dolphin when she's laughing. I remember Flipper. He was so much fun. So this is going the wrong way. This is testing. I've tested a lot in between so that everything just works. You need to test a lot. And now we're on to something that I've never used before. So first of all, I had to get rid of that existing number and replace it. And it didn't come off with any of the solvents I had. I tried a few. So I ended up just sanding it off with some really fine sandpaper, which is fine. I actually didn't take the paint off underneath. I just took the decal off. I think it's about 2000 grit or something. It's probably going to be able to see it there. Well, that's 280, and then I smoothed it back down really fine with some really fine stuff. I love these little Despy sanding sponges, by the way. And once I'd done that on both sides, I had to then put on these decals. But the decals are by Pressfix, is it? I did this in June, end of June, and I can't remember. And they're meth fix. So you have to use meths. Now I did find I had some meths, but I bought some more just in case while I was out and suddenly had a panic. And I was, whilst I'm out, I'll pop in and get some more meths. And you have to cut each number individually, obviously, and put them in place. And the thing with meth fix is it gets rid of all the carrier film. But I had one side that completely failed and I had to redo it. So thankfully there's enough numbers for that. And it's the same colour and it matches really well. But you basically put meths on. Here we are, purple meths. For the Americans, I remember trying to find meths in America and it was very hard to find anywhere. And you use them in fondue sets, whereas over here we have I don't know what we use in fondue sets. You had maybe different glue or something. It took a while to work it out. But meths is methylated spirits and it's coloured purple to stop people drinking it instead of alcohol. Kathy, don't some of the smartphone translating apps work for those conversations? Yeah, but I do feel a bit like they always have one person who speaks English who translates, and we're talking technical terms a lot of the time, so it's easier perhaps to do it. So this has like 3 different carriers. There's the carrier, and you put it in and you let the meths evaporate off and you kind of tamp it down, and then you put meths on again and let it sit, and then eventually the numbers come off this second carrier film, which is on top. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. And then I ended up with one side, all the numbers shriveled. See, it's just, there we go. And now they're like this. And then all the and then you can put them in place. And on one side, the numbers are just all shriveled, and the other side was fine. I don't really understand what I did differently on one side to the other, but it's quite hard to get level and right. It's just a weird technique. It's not like a normal decal. I could have coped with that. But there we go. Anyway. Morning, Monique. Nice to see you up. Early morning. Stephen, Mary says that I speak too fast. Even other Scottish people struggle to understand me. She says I need to slow down. I think it's just that our brains work fast. But some people definitely speak more slowly than me. Actually, Paul said you certainly had to rebuild that train lot. So far, all I've done is put in a decoder and put a new number on. So it was I didn't do some of the other things. I bought a whole conversion set to add stuff on, and I was just like, I don't have time for this. It's just going to have to be as it is. I started it, I got a bit out, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to have to respray the whole thing. I really don't have time, so I just swapped the number in the end. There were, I'm sure, many more things. Like the end of these wagons, they're covered wagons with tarps, and you can see I'm taking the wires out there. They've got a little mark on them where that would be. Well, that isn't on the wagons that I've got. This is just matte varnish going onto these to make them matte, because they're too shiny and plastic. And again, I wasn't going to repaint. So I matte varnished them to give the weathering something to stick and dull everything down. And, you know, I wasn't going to change those end pieces. And I looked at them and I don't think the plastic's thick enough and I'd have to repaint. And I was just like, whatever, I'm just living with them. So they've got those end pieces on the ends of all the wagons, even though it's not there in the real life photos. I forgot to do the chalk marks. I was going to do those, but I saw them in the film that was playing when I trailered this. And I was like, I never did those chalk marks. And these are 2 FE trucks that are right. They're not quite right because they're the wrong place. But they're right era sort of trucks. They look very much like the ones that are in the pictures. And this is just me putting on a little bit of Tamiya masking tape for the windscreen wipers so that when I spray matte varnish, a little bit remains clear. So COSI 118BMK, I'm using the DCC Concept digital point motors with the Alpha Central to sort out the short out problem. Yeah, I wanted to go without any DCC. My bigger layout had full DCC from your controller control. So I have all the bits for it now in a box. Loads of bits for it in a box. I have a whole crate full of tortoise motors. But this I wanted to be simple, so it's literally just push rods and a micro switch and a bit of 3D printing to hold all that underneath. So Tim is asking Alan if he knows Robert Jones, also known as Tony, because like Robert and Tony are similar. Digger, T-cut works at removing decals. Well, good to know. I mean, I've got just sanding paper stood there, so I just went with what was easy for me. But that's really good. If you haven't got it, you don't want to buy all these sanding stuff just for nothing. So this is me weathering everything out now with oils again. So that's my piece of card on the left with oils on. And if you do the oils with plenty of white spirit, and if you put them on the card, it gets rid of the oil elements, you're left with the pigments. They dry much more quickly, because otherwise they can be damp for days. Stephen Cameron, they were called skylines up here by woodcutters and quarrymen. Interesting. Blondins was named after the guy who walked across Niagara Falls on a tightrope. What is Monique? What is T-cut digger? So I'll answer that in case Digger hasn't. T-cut is a polishing liquid wax thing for cars, and you polish it on and it takes out the scratches. So if you've had a scratch, you can often buff it back out by polishing a layer of paint off with T-cut, and you can get them in different colours to match your car, I think. Am I right? And otherwise it's just polishing out scratches. So it's in a very, very finely abrasive polish. So T-cut for polishing scratches out of car paint, if I recall correctly. You do, Jan. Paint cutting compound. So yeah, all saying the same thing. And Digger just says, I dip a Q-tip into the T-cut and use that, which is a good way. A Q-tip, otherwise known as a cotton bud. I'd call them a cotton bud, cotton wool bud, a cotton bud over here. Q-tip's an American name. I'm not quite sure where it comes from because they're not Q-shaped, but there we go. So there we go. This is more, there's a little bit of rust going on, but not a huge amount. You know, it is actually very dingy in the black and white film. So there's a lot of dinginess going on to the side here, but I'm not going to rust it really because let's face it, they didn't run their locos looking like piles of messes. It was the end of steam. It was a bit of a rundown era, the 60s. So they may not have been polished out. And you can see it's a very dirty sided. It's very dull. There's a lot of mottling on it in the black and white photo. There's a lot of wear in places, but it's not going to look like a rust heap. Whereas I did the little one, the diesel, with a lot more rust because it was a more smaller railway. It wasn't a mainline steam train. So you can see on this, it's just getting small amounts across everything of the white to fade it. And I had to build it off over several layers to get what I wanted, and a little bit more around the areas. And I'm looking at pictures of the loco to see where it was weathered and how. So I'm not just doing this without looking. Digger's hanging around Yanks too much. He is, Norm. You're influencing him. Though I was very happy because you said Happy Christmas earlier, and most Americans say Happy Holidays, which is kind of weird to me because I'm like, it's Christmas. Double O Bill uses T-cut to clean locomotive commutators. Good to know. I don't think I've ever cleaned a locomotive commutator in my life, but should I ever want to? It's good to know. Hairdryers are brilliant for speeding up oil weathering. It's really good. So just a bit more kind of coming through. This is mostly Starship Filth for the grey, and then just a white for the going over the black. You can see it starting to build up that kind of patina of grunge on the side, just faded paint really. So Norm, my relatives are all in the UK, and Digger, yes I am. So Norm's picking up UK-isms and Digger's picking up US-isms. So TV show I mentioned briefly at the beginning. It's it's one of the TV shows that you can probably guess about model railways that's due out in January, and I'm in one of the episodes. It was the first edited, but whether it's the first to play I don't know. And I suspect you'll only see me for 5 minutes, but I did build an entire railway layout, which I was going to do anyway for the live streams, but I built it on a much faster timescale for them. So yes, there we go. It's very exciting. And it will be out in the new year on Yesterday channel, I think it is. So yeah. So Paul says, T-coat reduces the layers of clear coat on top of the paint. In doing so, it reduces the depth of the scratch and alters the reflective angle of the scratch, giving the impression it's gone. Good to know. Q equals quality came from a brand that used to be called Baby Gaze. You couldn't make it up. Baby Gaze. You probably couldn't. They're just trying to be politically takes away the joy. My mum still says she's got a gay jumper on. So the project was originally called Baby Gaze, and in 1926 the labels were changed to read Q-tips. Baby Gaze, later the name Baby Gaze was discarded and Q-tips became the identity for cotton swabs. And the word tips describes the cotton swab at the end of the stick. Okay, so Q stands for quality. Okay, so that's good to know. Very exciting. And it's from the Q-tips website. Baby Gaze. I suppose it made. So, Tamlin says, Happy Holidays acknowledges Christmas isn't the only religious festival at this time of year. I know, it's just that quite often there's not actually that many other festivals. And I think the Americans put Happy Holidays in because of Thanksgiving, because it also kind of then runs into Thanksgiving for them. So, I would say Happy Christmas because that's mine. If someone said Happy whatever back, I wouldn't be offended. But to kind of smush them all together, I think sometimes seems a bit like you're losing all of them then. I'd rather just have multiple different happies for each of them. There we go. But I'm not sure what other ones there are that we couldn't just, there's not like 5 or 6 of them, so we probably could just do happy this, happy that. Anyway, more oil paint going on. So Monique is a Kiwi living in Australia trying not to pick Aussiisms. Oh, that must be tough. You're having a Barbie this arbo. Cotton buds. Oh, you probably should have. Oh, and Timber's reminding everyone to subscribe and hit the bell button to see, well, to find out and be notified when I do something else. Hanukkah is always at this time of year. Yeah, and I'd rather we just said Happy Christmas, Happy Hanukkah on every single thing than Happy Holidays, which just seems to be the worst of every world. I don't know. I feel like we're losing them all then, as opposed to, I don't know. Anyway. And when you say Merry Thanksgiving, they get their knickers in a twist. Oh, I've never tried saying Merry Thanksgiving. But it is always, I always say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, because Merry New Year sounds wrong, whereas Happy New Year does. So I kind of get that. Anyway, we're now putting a kind of grey sludgy mix. And I was saying white, it is being greyed down. You can see there, it's Starship Filth and white. So it's easier to dull with a grey than with a white. And I'm just putting that over everything to sort of start dulling down these other interiors and letting it just sit into the gaps and start to create some detailing around these areas. The reason I'm using the grey is they've had slate loads in, so the dust would be grey. So it's just the start of that weathering. They'll get pigment later. Can I just say how impressive it is to watch the transformation of this train? Thanks, Paul. A little bit of rust going around at the bottom, just in places you might expect to see it, but not a huge amount. And that loco is looking wonderfully grungy and grimy. It is, and these are now getting their own little sort of bits. These are the bits that aren't painted are where I'm rusting. So around wheels and places like that, they didn't paint them, so the defects didn't get painted over. So they were more likely to rust. whether they're this heavily rusted, I suspect it would be a darker colour that was more road grime and picked up a little bit of grease and a little bit of dirt in there as well. But by the time it's dried, it isn't as stark as this. It does dry a bit less dark. So, yeah. There we go. Anyway, this is going on. I also mentioned my new job, and until we've got the money, I'm really not saying vast amounts on it, but I do have one shout out. And that is, we are going to be designing a whole miniature world model railway. It's not just a model railway though, it's more Great Model Railway Challenge than GWR branch line is how I'm describing it. So there's going to be loads of moving boats, trains, cars, animations from pecking chickens through to people doing whatever. There's a working airport with planes that take off and land. And all of this is in a tourist attraction on Oxford Street in London. So it's going to be a really big thing. And I'm the creative director in charge of design, build and delivery. And one of the things I need to do over the next few months is really spend a lot of time with our suppliers defining what they're building. And one of the things we need to define is what everything looks like, because none of the suppliers will probably be in this country, because we're going for existing studios that have already built their own model worlds. So we're looking at, Small Worlds Tokyo and Mini World Lyon, to name a couple, who've already built miniature worlds. So they've got experience building exactly what we're doing. And as a result, we just need to make sure that we specify everything. So I'm looking for somebody to come on board for a 3-month stretch, maybe during the main design phases, to help specify everything that they want specified. Whether that's what colours a post box to, okay, we're going to model a Cotswold village. These are the kits that are the best thing that we could possibly model a Cotswold village in. And, to save time, because we don't want them to waste time designing a Cotswold village house when there are plenty of kits that they won't know about, because probably be the French doing that. They don't actually know the market. They don't know anything in double O. They're a bit like, you want it in double O? And it was very funny. He says, you have double O people? I'm like, yep, we have double O people. They just don't really understand what's available in the marketplace. And I'm going to put on a preserved railway, and excluding anything else, I'll be using Severn Valley Railway, because that's the one that's local to me. So if I need to go up there, I can go and have a look at it. I can. It's just a train trip away. More pigments. And, they've got a typical station building on there. Some manufacturer has probably already got a station building like that. So I want to know, is there somebody out there who's interested in coming on board, immediate start really in the new year, to do 3 months of designing, but it's like doing the research side of it, putting it all together with them, working with them to make sure that they get all the UK details right. If you are interested, drop me a line and let me know. It will be UK based. Sorry if you're somewhere else. If you're French and if you're British and understand British humour and British geography, but you're living in France, perfect. But you really need to be someone who understands the British railway market and scene, and all of the kind of tourist and scenery and sort of that sort of stuff of the area, because we're trying to act as an interpreter between Britain and France for the UK. So it's someone who really understands British culture. Probably a British person would understand that best, but I'm open to other offers. So anyway, it's my little plug. So if anyone's interested, it's going to be a fascinating project, and the UK is going to be massive. It's about 1/3 of the layout that we have there. So it's a really big one. So if anyone's interested, just drop me a line. Right. Grey is the new black, darling, says Stephen. Oh. So John, like the oils White Spirit on card trick, we'll try that alternated to my usual watercolours over PVA weathering. Yeah, if you want to know how to do oil weathering really well, look at Michael Rinaldi. Rinaldi Studio Press is his YouTube channel. That guy takes oils to an art form. I mean, I've been using them for years, and I look over here and I've got stuff I weathered with oils back 15 years ago. But he reminded me how good they were when I was watching his YouTube channel, and I was like, I've got them all. I should just go and dig them out again. I've been using them a lot more since I saw his channel. I haven't necessarily watched a huge amount because he's just got so much volume, it's hard to keep up. And actually, if people have too much volume, you kind of go, ooh, I can't keep up with you. Now, this will all dull down these when I put the matte varnish on. It won't look half as stark as this. They're almost over pigmented because they're pale. And the same with this. It disappears when you put on the matte varnish. And because they're being handled, they'll get matte varnish on them. Norm, so exciting, I can't wait. I'm not quite sure what's so exciting, but yes, it is. Jam, my goodness, that French ultramarine is a gorgeous colour, isn't it? Glorious colour even. I know you won't see that on the rolling stock, but I do love that colour. I'm not even sure why I squeezed it out, because I don't think I used it anywhere. But I think it was because I wanted to put a hint of blue in because of the slate grey having a hint of blue in it. I didn't use it particularly, I don't think. And then Norm, what kind of time frame do you have for completion? For the tourist attraction, it will be mid-24. There we go, that's the final result on the loco. So it'll be mid-24, it'll be opening. And around then I'll be asking for people who want to come and help, weather stuff up from some of the suppliers who are probably more architectural in nature than anything else, or perhaps come and help install. But that'll be in the future. Yes, it is a shame, Monique, you're in Australia. How do I know what's black? Maybe it's Brunswick green. What, David? What would be black, not Brunswick green? Just wondering what I've got here that could possibly be Brunswick green. Anyway. Okay, so John, none of the XMS3F tanks were green. Yeah. Digger, oh yes, weathering, count me in. Okay, Digger, I'll let people know. John, new XLMS. I don't think, I've only ever seen this loco in black in real life. So it's about now I realised I haven't put on the lamps, which are very clearly visible on it. And these are Model U lamps. So I snipped them off their supports. I painted them and then snipped them off their supports. Glued in the little lamp bits, checked on a website to find out where they were going, looked on the photos to see where they were going, and then tried to stick them on. There's a little spigot at the back you can put down over the poles that actually do exist on the loco, and more or less managed to get them on with a bit of hassle. Oh, the loco wagons and lorries came out great, thank you. David, my engine, Pennsylvania joke. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, nothing's really... black is a very common colour here for locos of this era. Yeah. I remember having an argument with my art teacher at school when I painted my dad had a castle and I painted this steam loco. It was really dire. It was like one of my first years at school, so I was probably about 11 or 12. And I did it in this bright lime green. And he said, oh, they're not that colour. And I said, oh, yes, it is. I went home and looked and thought, no, it isn't. Oh, well. Cosy 118 BMK, Model U of quality figures. I have lots from them. Do you know, the only thing I bought at Worley was some Model U figures. They've got this little post box that's open and a postman leaning down to put figures into it, take stuff in or out of it. And so that's what I used. I'm going to do a little diorama with them on eventually. And yeah, but I love Model U figures. All the figures on this, which you'll see next month, Model U. They're really, really good. Wow. So these are, just you can't do anything with them. It's only ever run as a rake, this. So they're just fixed in place. They fix a little too well, to be honest. It's a pain to unhook them if you want to move them, but they just tend to live on the layout. Yeah, do bear in mind this is sped up 700 times, so I'm not this fast in real life. You know, there's speed weathering, and then this is fast speed weathering. But yeah. But it's coming together. You can see I'm getting more and more rolling stock. It's kind of, we're nearly at the end now. It's going to go all black soon. There'll just be a little bit where I spend a bit of time cleaning the track and getting it all sorted, and then we're there. But yeah, so I said I'd talk a little bit. Someone asked me what was I doing for my next project, and I said I'd talk a little bit more about my projects. So recently I've been doing a lot of projects for people. So I've been doing a lot for 3D printers, Elegoo, Creality. I've got 2 free Elegoo's and Creality over this year. So I've done a lot of ones for them. And one of the more recent ones was a hanger with a Rampart fighter on it. And actually Tamsin, who's in chat, did a lovely print of one earlier today. Hers looked a lot smoother than mine, to be honest. It looked really nice. I'm looking forward to seeing what she does when paints it. I don't think you've painted it yet, have you, Tamsin? Haven't seen the photos if you have, sorry. But, you know, it's a beautiful little fighter. And I've been thinking a lot about modular terrain, and that was kind of dipping my water into modular terrain. I learnt a lot, and there's a lot I change. One of the things I really struggled with was scale. You know, you're doing a big set of hangers because I wanted to put Gundam in there as well. And I ended up just struggling with scale. My ladders were massively out of scale. And what's funny is I can scale 00 in my head, and I know what it looks like because I've done a lot of modelling in it. Oh, Tamsin, not painted yet. I'm sorry, not rushing you. Can't wait though. You always do great stuff. Tamsin's on a Discord server with me, and whilst I mention that, I have actually got a Discord server. So if you want to join it, I will not get it in chat at the moment, but you can get. Yeah, if you want to join it, drop me a line and I'll send you it. I think it's on my links. I meant to put it on my links. I think it's on my links in Instagram. But yeah, I'm spending more time on Discord than anything else for social media. But Tamsin's on the Second Dynasty one. I've done a lot of printing of Second Dynasty stuff. So I've been trying to think about doing a lot of modular terrain as maybe a backdrop and an extra thing, because you can sell it. And a lot of what I've printed, I've never actually sold a 3D print file really yet. But it's been at the back of my mind that I might do a Kickstarter whilst alongside things. So I've been doing a lot in 28mm where you can actually see the figures, and 35mm. And I've started to do Star Wars Legion as a game, and it's been great fun so far. It's hard work. This tabletop gaming is really hard, learning all the rules, especially as I've never played it before. So I've been going to one of our local board gaming stores, Battlegrounds Gaming in Across Green, and playing with a lady called Ellie who's been very patient teaching it me. Lost a piece. And oh, yep, there it is. And just, you know, I'm struggling with bouncing between all the scales that I'm doing. So this is 00, and then I've been doing 28, and I just these ladders I did were so out of scale because I just struggled with bouncing around. So I need to get better at working in all these scales and getting them right, because the next scale I'm doing is 1 to 350 for Thunderbirds, and the people are barely visible for that. So it's been quite a bit of fun. But yeah, so I'm spending a lot of time 3D printing as well, and designing stuff for that, which I really like. So that's what I've been doing a lot of recently. So yes, so Stephen Cameron, my next light is going to be a lot smaller and definitely not permanent. Lesson learned. This house move has been a hateful experience. Yeah, I hate just how much mess there is in my house at the moment. Oh, can I just say though, I have a stone floor here and I'm getting a plain white floor in my new workshop. If you have a carpet, you're screwed. You've lost it. That's it. It's so hard to find. But if you have a hard floor, I go there with my dustpan and brush and I end up dusting everything off the floor and going through what's come up in the dustpan and brush to find it. But it's amazing how far these things can ping. Most of the time you have a direction, you're like, oh, it went that way, or it hits you or something. But sometimes it's just over there. And I find them. I picked something up the other day. I actually went upstairs to clean out my bathroom with the dustpan and brush, and there was a clone trooper head in it, just a head that had pinged off and I'd lost, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and it had obviously fallen into the dustpan and brush. I'm like, oh, I found the head now. All the rest of them have been painted, but there it is. Yeah, so Tamsin, it'll probably be a while before I get to paint the rampart. I've got a few small things to print, then the Type S in the queue ahead of it. Type S, yeah, that's going to be big, because mine seems massive and it's only in 15mm. So these are all Second Dynasty ships. Huge fan. He does massive playable ships with interiors if you're into tabletop gaming. If you're not, I did a video recently on quick and easy spaceship prints or something like that. I don't know, whatever it was. It was 3 easy steps to paint a spaceship or something. Anyway, I printed his Alpha Shuttle, which is one of his smaller ones. And I've got to say, I do love the designs, and I love, Ben's got some great original designs on them as well, not just his Traveller ones. So it's been really good to get to know him and people doing them, because they're just superb work. Carpet Monster wins every time, says Digger. So 28mm is S scale on railway terms. It's a little bit bigger. I think 28mm is about 60th, so it's close to S scale, yeah. And I've certainly, I tend to approximate 15mm as 100th, 28mm as a 60th, and 35mm as 48th, which is O scale. So I tend to put them into there, and I think that's more or less how they work. But my O scale railway figures seem to be a lot bigger than my 35mm Star Wars figures. It's just bizarre. And I think that's because American O and British O are 2 different scales. So Rosen Express, I think Douglas Adams would have a theory on where the parts are going to when they're falling onto the carpet. Yes, because he had the planet Bic, where all the used biros, the ones you can't find, end up, and they go through an interdimensional portal to the planet Bic, don't they? Your biros. I put this in because I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the main things about rolling stock is having good running track work. And I had cleaned all these many times, but it's hard to clean inset track. And what I did for this is I did all the proud track, like the 009, with just normal, these are just rubbers, the track cleaning rubbers. I can't remember what brands they are. One of them might be a Pico one might be one from America or something. And I just went over that one. But when you come to that main line, a lot of it's inset. So what I did was I got 2 coffee stirrers and cut the ends square. Those wooden coffee stirrers. And they're about the width of my flangeways. And I staggered them so one end stuck out a little bit. So when I went along, I used the... Okay, let's go with a bit more physical description here. So I had them like this, 2 pieces, that way. 2 pieces, that way. And this one goes into the flangeway, and this one, this bit here, rubs on the track. So it keeps it nice and tight, and you can just clean off your track. And wood is actually very good for cleaning track, I have to say. It just scrape it off very nicely. And that's how I cleaned all my track, and you'll see that in a minute. So Richard, sorry if this has been mentioned before, what print is the Russian Hornsey and what chassis did you use? Just back from driving the Santa train, so I couldn't get here earlier. Hi Richard, I didn't really say much other than it was a Ruston Hornsby from Shapeways. I bought it 5 years ago and I could look it up, and I might well do eventually, but I just bought it off Shapeways, so it's already printed for me. Coffee stirrer scrapers already printed for me, and I just painted it. And the chassis, I think, was Tomitech, but it mentions what chassis it wants in the Shapeways description. And if you were to look up a 009 Ruston and Hornsby, there's not many on there. And that's the same place, maybe even the same person I got my Dinorwic wagons from. So there's not a lot of great choices. And I also got a couple of little steam locos that were also on there. And the reason I can't remember is they've got different... they've got different mechanisms in them. I'm sure it was Tomitech. And I know that because I broke the first one. It just stopped running. I bent all the stuff wrong. So I've actually got a second one that I used as the chassis. I ended up buying a second one to actually get a running one. So the first one that went in stopped working. And I had to buy it. It was the pickups weren't picking up properly. I don't know what I did. And then I lost a piece. So I ended up buying a second one because I'd lost a piece. So between them I have enough pieces. But that piece that went, and I even have a carpet monster, I never found it. And so I couldn't. So I've got an unusable spares chassis now, but they're not expensive on eBay. So yeah, Tomitech, I think. So Timbersurf, my top tip for designing is design in inches. They're easy to visualise in the real world. Uses the units in CAD for millimetres, then scale from STL as 30%. See, I can't model in inches. 1/64th of an inch is meaningless to me. Absolutely meaningless. I model in millimetres because I want and I'm modelling the actual size, but I leave it as metres in Blender because then it comes out of the right amount. So I leave the scale as metres in Blender and then actually treat it as millimetres. Just don't ask. But yes, I'm modelling millimetres. Inches are alien. I can't get my head around a small division of an inch. Out of focus, but a good run. So that runs really well, a little too well. I couldn't get it to stop because of the capacitors. And we'll see the locos running in the final one, I guess. There we go. That one runs well. And Tamsin, 28mm for wargaming is around 1/56th scale, going up to 1/48 scale for some ranges. I think that's the end of it. The rolling stock section. So back to me for a sec. Yeah, it is one of those things. Ben, I think, Second Dynasty, Ben, who I know Tamsin first, he, I think, does 1/59th. It's really hard because 28mm isn't exactly clear. I think it's the eye height of a 6-foot high man, but who knows? So Stephen says, I've always said every modelling room has a hole in the fabric of the space-time continuum. Yeah, very true. Everything gets lost sometimes. Jam, just to be cheeky, is there any chance you'd be persuaded to add a Discord or an email address, even a throwaway one, to your website? I'm surprised my email address isn't on there. At one point it was, but a number of people have said it's hard. I just encourage people to go through Instagram or Facebook if they want to contact me. But Discord is on the links page, I think, on Instagram or Facebook, and there is a links page. I'm not sure I updated it, that's why I'm just saying. I'll do it soon if it isn't. But if you were just to go to kathymillett.co.uk/links, I don't think it's linked on the front page. I need to add it in as a social media icon, and I haven't yet. So I will add it as a social media, but it will definitely have my Discord on there eventually. But my email address... My mum wound my clock for me. I don't know if you can hear my clock going. And I never wind my clock. And the first day I got back, she'd wound it for me, because I normally wind it Friday morning. It was striking triple. So at 10 o'clock at night, it struck 30 times. It's kind of calmed down now, but it's really weird. So it's 10 minutes fast at the moment, but it's striking at 10 to the hour. I'm very confused. I just don't wind the striker because it is broken and will sometimes just go off for 3 or 4 minutes. Right. I deleted my Facebook and Instagram accounts a few years ago, and I like to avoid... I'm not going to get into whether it's spyware or not, but I'll put it on my I'll put my Discord link on my website if it's not already on there. So if you go to kathymillett.co.uk/links, I thought I put Discord on there, but if I haven't, I'll look to put it on over the next couple of days, Jam, because it should be on there. And that is actually where I spend a lot of my time. I've got a server, so that's what I'll link to, and you'll be able to join my server. Right, everyone's coming up with their tales of woe. Polite's lost an 0402 SMD LED in a carpet. but using a monster to get them back, a magnet to get them back from the monster works pretty well. Yeah, if you've lost something magnetic, that's a good one. But Nick says his wood floor breaks the legs or heads off his resin figures, so a drop cloth to soften the drop is essential. I've started to put 10% tenacious in my resin figures, and they'll still shatter, but not as badly as without it. Norm, it's nice to see the diorama again. It's certainly getting there. It's nearly finished. I'll have to start putting some photos around. Really bad at putting photos up at the moment on Instagram. I've kind of lost the will to do it, really. So I'll have to get back into it. So Digger's recommending a jeweler's apron if you're doing a lot of small parts work. I just kind of catch it with my legs. Timber wants to model in real world inches. A man, it's 72. Okay. Tommy Tech are really good. I have a couple of simplexes that use them on my layout. Ammo bow. Thank you for the info. Yeah, thanks, Richard. I think it was Tommy Tech. There was another one that was another Japanese make, but I don't think it was that. Thank you. Cosy says my tree work looks amazing. Thank you. That was last time's live stream. If you missed it, I went through that. Jam. Completely the same about metric here, Kathy. Inches and feet make no sense to me. It's funny, we just use such a mix in the UK because I am 5'8". I am not, however much that is in inches or metric. It's just not a number I know. So Railway 187, hello, that steam loco is super beautiful. Thank you. It's just about Ringinti with a bit of oil paint on it and pigments. But it's amazing what a difference weathering can make. So Stephen says his baseboards are feet in inches and his models are in millimetres. My pain is when I'm doing terrain, I was talking about as modelling some, all of the standard terrain systems are in inches. So I'm very good at multiples of 25.4 now. And I just do them in multiples of 25.4. Tams, in Bender's 1 to 59 scales, that gives 1 inch equals 1.5 metres, and most games use a 1.5 metre grid. Okay. That makes sense. I've just discovered that most use either 3 inches or 2 inch or 4 inch. So actually I've been designing a lot in 3 inches because I like it as a size, but I need to do them in 3s and 4s probably. Jam found his way to the secret links page. It's not secret, it was just, I didn't need it on my main website. So it's actually the page I linked to in Instagram because you can't put links anywhere except one in your bio. But does it have Discord on it, Jam? That's the question. Hi, the closet branch. Welcome. So Nick Fortes. I used to work with a German who took pride in the fact that he works to millimetre. I used to tell him that's not good enough. Us Brits likes to be spot on. Yeah, I bet that went down well. Oh, yes, Timber, please put a link if it's on the website. Please do put a Discord link so people can see it. That'd be really cool. At the moment, it's mostly me just putting up pictures of various things, but that'd be great, thank you. I should put it on more often. I could do with some more people in there because otherwise it's really just Digger and me talking and occasionally other people pop in, but it's not a huge amount. So Tater Raider says HO 3.5 millimeters to the foot. The conversion from freedom units to what everyone else understands is built in. I'm not even going there. So, John, before we end, thanks, Kathy, for your time. Well, thank you guys for coming. You know, I'll do the wind up in a sec. But Tamsin's got 2 inches of snow. That's quite impressive for London because it is a lot warmer there. It doesn't seem to ice as much. So, metric feet, Sean, are invaluable things to have in your head for mental conversion. I like the foot. I'll often talk in feet because it's easier to imagine a foot than it is 3 foot, a metre. It just works better, I think. So John, what is Discord? So Discord is a private chat sort of servers. And I'm on about 20 plus servers, but I'm mostly on 3D printing or Patreons that I support or people like Second Dynasty that I support. And creators have a lot of Discords, but I'm also on the Star Wars Legion Discord. I'm on Battleground Gaming Store Discord because that's how you book your tables. I'm on games I've played. That's how I got into it, was through gaming because it's where it came from originally. and it's just another way of chatting, but you can put photos up. On mine, I've got members, whip and photos if people want to put it on. I've got stuff I'm doing for my YouTube, and I've got general, which is where most chatting ends up. I've got a little bit of a 3D printing channel and things like that. And, people just go and put photos up and chat. Now, some of the Discords, I think the Legion one's got over 10,000 people in it. Some of them have got a couple of thousand, but mine's got a handful, really, because I've never really particularly gone out and advertised it. But it's certainly a way of chatting to people. And interesting, when I was on Original Mecca and they were talking about people don't like Facebook, and I'm not a fan of Facebook, I never go on Facebook. I go on Instagram a lot less now than I used to, but I like it because it's mostly still photocentric. The thing with Discord is it's you have to join the server, so you only join the servers you want to join. And there was sort of a lot of people on Facebook were going, for the Original Mecca group, were going, we'd rather have a Discord because it's less jarring and it's easier to manage, and you can put things in threads if you want, like support threads. So Second Dynasty have a support thread set up, so when you post, the whole channel is just threads. So you set a new thread and they stay forever, and you can follow your support through on that thread as it gets resolved. So there's loads of different ways around. It's just another social media, but it's independent of Facebook and Instagram if you're annoyed by them. So Jam says it does have a Discord on there. Oh no, it isn't. It is secret if you don't put a link to it. I actually took the blog off the top of the menu recently because it was getting so hard to find anything on. But Tamsin's Discord is a forum site. It's probably a much quicker summary of actually what I just said. It's kind of the follow-up to forums. Tim says, I'll be posting more to Discord now I've gotten around to joining. Sorry it took me a while. No worries. I mean, everyone has their own favourite media. It's actually my favourite social media at the moment because it is curated to, what I want to do, what I want to watch. I don't want any in the Midlands. Mark's asked Tamsin to send some snow up to the Midlands. I don't want it in the Midlands. Not that I'm actually going anywhere, so it's okay. But my dad's going on the trains tomorrow up to the north, so we prefer the trains not to be snowed in. So Tim says, Discord looks very similar to Slack for anybody who used the latter. I have used Slack once, but not really. Tamsin, we hardly ever get snow here, so she's keeping it. You're welcome to it. So Railway 187, we're about a minute off finishing. So he tries to model in 1 to 87 HO to the millimetre, but sometimes he uses larger elements in the front, 1 to 72, and smaller elements in the background, 1/100th and 1/120th. I do starting to do that a lot more, and I'm planning to do it a lot on Pocket Planet. So Timberstone says you can have chat and video rooms too. That's true. So Cozzy, thanks for the stream. Hints, tips and advice. Stay safe and Merry Christmas to you all. So I will say the same. Thank you everybody for coming. I'll carry on reading chat, but it's 10 o'clock. So thanks everybody. Enjoy your snow if you're about to get it. If you need anything from me, Adams just says, starting my first diorama after Christmas. Probs fail, but can't wait to start any advice for the first time if you can. Don't worry, just build something you enjoy. First one is never going to be brilliant. Just get it out the way, then it will get better. But start small, start simple. Don't overdo it. Don't try too many new techniques. Just do a couple and just go for it. You'll love it. It'll be great. David has a smattering of snow here. It's raining now, but he's less than a mile from the seafront. Oh well, you're always going to get rain by the sea. Discord's very good. Right, it's 10 o'clock. Everyone's doing stuff, so just no more comments coming on. Just I'm going to say goodbye, but I am going to read what's already there. So Thomas, welcome. Oh, hang on. Right. Jam, yep, I like the idea of foreground scale, force perspective, but never considered the reverse. It's a good idea. Thomas, sorry a bit late to the video. Love the Slate wagons. Didn't realise you were RVB fan as well. I do like red versus blue. But how do you know that? Oh, is it from the t-shirts? Yeah, I loved it. I haven't watched I only watched the first season of Zero. I need to see if they've got another season out or something. But I watched it all the way through. Loved red versus blue. I've never laughed so much in my life. It's definitely good. So Digger's got plenty of snow. He's up north. Thanks for the stream, Norm. Thank you for coming. Moderators, really appreciate it. Happy Christmas to everybody, to your families. I hope you get all the presents that you want. I hope there's some modelling presents in there. If Christmas isn't your thing, then happy Hanukkah and any other holidays that you have coming up. Just enjoy it. Make the most of it, everybody. Get some modelling done and have a nice rest. And I'll be back in the new year with the final instalment of Port Dinorwic. And then next year's is all going to be, maybe not all of it, Thunderbird's Tracy Island. I've got some great ideas. So the first stream, which will be February for that, we'll be talking about what I'm going to do for Thunderbirds. It's going to be brilliant. So I'll see you then. Have a good one, everybody. Take care. Good night.